Hi there. Welcome to Belt Friends. My name is Casey Hutchinson. I'm the president of Empire Rubber and Supply Company. And today my guest is Paul Bosserman, who's the Southwest Regional Manager for Viacore, formerly All-State Belting. Mm-hmm. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
This will be fun. Paul and I go back in this industry. We've both equally been in this industry for 29 years.
A little bit.
He's got me beat by 2 weeks. I know this, so we'll expand on that. This is going to be fun because Paul started Empire Rubber with me, and it's been exciting to see how you've grown in this industry and had your experiences on various levels. So we're going to crawl into that. But Paul, first off, I'm going to ask you simplicity of simple questions about your beginnings prior to this, because we're in your old stomping grounds, and I know you grew up in the Northwest. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about your family growing up, things prior to this industry.
Yeah, sure. So we kind of all started out in Seattle, actually.
Oh, that's right.
In the 70s, and one of them was born in California. One of my older siblings, but then they all kind of came back to Seattle. And in 1974, we moved down to the Portland area. My dad took a job down here with the Department of Environmental Quality.
Okay.
As an air pollution control engineer. And so all 9 of us moved to Portland into a house down there in Southeast. And
Two parents. 7 siblings. You're one of 7.
2 parents, 9 siblings.
9. Okay, when you say 9 of us, I want to be clear.
One of 9. Well, yeah, all 11 plus the cat and whatever, But it was good back in the 70s in Portland, and Blazer Mania and all that kind of stuff was going on, and so we had a lot of fun growing up. Saturday Night Wrestling and all that kind of. So yeah, this is my stomping ground. So I went to. Lived here about 14 years through high school, moved up to Seattle again, where I met my better half, who's just off camera here, laughing up a storm. Met her and last half of my senior year, and been together ever since, 30-something years, 30.
I like when she's shaking her head. We're not in trouble.
It'll be 34 years this year. 34 years this year.
Congratulations, you too.
Yeah, and then we did a little bit of college up there, and then my oldest brother John, offered me a job here in Portland. And on a whim, on a weekend, we decided to uproot, quit college, quit everything, move to Portland, and start working and start our lives, and kind of got going there. Yeah. So we actually moved back into the family home, which has a whole nother story. So I actually raised my kids the first part of their growing up in the home that I was raised in here in the Southeast area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that, because this is where things launch into industry, and I want to make sure we capture this story, because starting at Empire is an interesting leap. I'll let you share.
Well, I went from one family business to another family business. I was working for my brother at the time, my oldest brother, who I love dearly and have a lot of respect for, and taught me pretty much everything I know about pretty much everything I know outside of conveyor belt. So worked for him in his small business, and it was good, but needed a little bit of separation. And so we were just talking about this earlier, where, I put in my notice with my brother and needed some space. And I come home, and she says, "What are you doing home? It's like 3 p.m. I said, "I quit my job." And she goes, "Well, I got news for you, buddy. I'm pregnant." And I went, "Oh, crud, here we go, So I kind of did the panic thing, and I knew how to drive. I knew the town, so I looked for delivery driver positions in the old Oregonian, right, newspaper, and went down the list. And the first one I found was Empire Rubber and Supply delivery driver. Apply, and I called up and they said, come on down. And I showed up and they hired me on the spot.
Oh, man.
And that was
1995.
1995.
March of 95.
There you go.
No, boy, not that I want to date us both, but here we go.
Yeah, yeah. So that first summer in the splice shop there with you, I had a pager on my hip later on, and it was because we were expecting our second. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love that story. I
Yeah.
love that story.
But yeah, it's a funny thing because you end up in this business and you get to like it and you get to know it and you get good at it. And then you think about, well, if I were to do something else, what would that be? It'd be this or that. But you end up starting all over again and you don't know anything. And then you realize I was an expert in that field. Why did I ever leave? So I did that for like 9 months one time. I don't know if you remember that, but I left the company for a little bit, a little spell.
Yes.
Worked for another family business on her side of the family, and that didn't pan out like we hoped. And like I called up, and you guys were looking for a splicer, and I was a splicer. And they're like, when can you start? And I said immediately, and they're like, good. So yeah. That began my second stint.
Yeah.
But it was one big long run.
I say 9 months off doesn't really count.
I had to start over my vacation. I'm not salty, but I had to start
You
back.
didn't negotiate. Well, that's on you, buddy.
I didn't negotiate at all. I was just a kid. What did I know? I was 20-something, but no, it was good. It was good. You guys needed the help, and I needed a job, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of the second stint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that you and I both did time in the shop and got that experience under us, and that then led you into sales. How long would you wager you were in the shop before making that jump? At least a couple years.
Here's a funny story. During I think it was the first stint, there was an opening on the order desk. And Jody was the manager at the time, and I went up and interviewed, and I didn't get the job. Oh. Was it Jody or was it? No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Didn't get the job. And then I went up, and I don't know, now I'm starting to remember. Jody's going to have to correct me on that. But it came up again where I interviewed. It might have been with Benson at that time. And I took it a little more seriously, and it was with Benson, and he hired me from the shop into the order desk.
And we're throwing around names that my audience aren't too familiar with.
Sorry,
within the House of Empire, which is fine. Jody Stegel has been a lifer with Empire. She's had a stint away and come back, and I'm grateful for it. And Doug Benson was a lifer. God bless him. He retired a few years ago and worked over 40 years. Yeah, he did. Hey, Doug. Old Skinner.
Yeah. But I learned a lot there and learned a lot from Doug and actually was working under the other Doug as his sales guy, so inside sales guy. So yeah, that was first stint. Yeah, and then when I came back, I went into the shop and became a lead and was working with some of the guys there and going on jobs and leading jobs and that kind of thing. And then I got a couple of as it happens sometimes in the industry, a couple of injuries, soft tissue injuries from lifting things. You strain your back or whatever it is, and then the purchasing assistant job came open.
Heck yeah.
And so I went for that and got it, and then I worked for Steve.
Mm-hmm. Steve Stegel, Jody Stegel's husband, who works for me. He's been at it 36 years.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, he taught me a couple things, because we had adjoining offices, right? And I could look over and I could ask him questions, just boom, And I asked him a question once in like the first week. And he told me, I'll give you the answer, but I only want to have to answer your questions once. And it was actually a really good lesson. It was pay attention, kid, right? This is important stuff, and I can tell you stuff, but I can't be doing this all day long, right? And so I started taking notes and making out my own cards, and I think I asked him for a phone number once. Yeah. Hey, what's the phone number for whatever corporation, needed to order some whatevers, Yeah. And he gave it to me, and he said, I only want to tell you once. So I started my Rolodex, the infamous Rolodex.
Oh my gosh.
and built that thing up. So it cross-referenced. It was crazy. It's like 3 Rolodexes in one,
We're dating ourselves, Paul.
I know. Golly. But that's the time it was, right?
Oh, yeah. We didn't have PCs in front of us yet. We had that one computer in the back that we'd have to go to and listen to it dial up. And it wasn't the tool that it was yet. I mean, that was the infancy of the net.
Yeah.
And we were in front of old green screen IBM screens and things like that.
Yeah, and and they were very stable platforms. They didn't get viruses and they didn't crash.
Yeah.
I remember when the PCs came in, everything was crashing, the blue screen of death and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw fax machines come in and go out.
I wish they'd go out, but they're still kind of
there sometimes. But and then email was the thing. But so I did that for a while. A couple of years, and because I had the technical skills, I'd go out with the guys and still do jobs and splice belt and whatnot. But it became, at a certain point, where they were like, "Hey, it's great that Paul can go out and do that, but we need him in the office to do this part because he's generating on a different level and things like that." And eventually they, now you're not going out in the field anymore. Which I didn't hurt my feelings too much.
No, you might have missed some of the overtime, but I'm sure Brandy didn't. So
yeah, and that's the thing about being a splicer, and you get into a wage and an overtime kind of lifestyle, and you're making some good money, you think, but you don't have any life.
Yeah.
So you buy toys and you blow it on toys, or on in my case, I had a family, so I was scrapping for everything I could, but which I think helped keep my feet on the ground a little bit better. And some of the younger generation guys, they're good guys and they're eager, but the responsibility level isn't there. And when they get it, it's interesting to see how they turn and start going, they start paying attention a little more and taking their own trajectory a little more serious. So, but certainly I had that. And so I worked with Steve in the purchasing office for quite a while, got to know a lot of people in the industry through that medium, and got to see the backside of that business and become a little more savvy in the technical side of things.
Get some rapport with vendors and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, because you had to understand what you were asking for, right? Yeah. You can't go to a vendor and say, I need a thing. Can you tell me what it's supposed to be? And you're not going to get treated with respect, and you're not going to get good pricing. So you try to study up and learn about their products so you can speak to them in their own language, and that's kind of what I did. I had my catalogs,
Oh, yeah.
So.
With more extensive notes taken.
I remember after I went to Pasco, I'd turn around and look for my catalog that wasn't there anymore. It was like a habit, there are certain things I'd do, and you look for certain things and it's always there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it wasn't, and had to rebuild. But did purchasing for a while with Steve and helped with that. And then... so I got the opportunity, right?
Yeah, Pasco, Washington,
right? So young guy, energetic, some knowledge and whatnot, and trying to do as much as I could for the company, and so I could improve my family situation, right?
Yeah.
Wife, 2 kids.
When did that go down? Or freshman, was it 01, 02?
Yeah, it was 01. It was post 9/11, because I remember I was going to... actually started taking night classes to try to finish my degree that I abandoned years ago, and I'm thinking that would be some kind of avenue to get me somewhere. And it was good and whatnot, but I remember doing papers or something about 9/11, and so it had already been past that. It was July. It was July of, I think,
if it was July
2002 or 2001. I can't remember.
It would have been 02 because 01 was in 9/11.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it was maybe 9 months after 9/11, I guess. But there's a funny story to that too. So there was scuttlebutt in Pasco, and people are kind of hushed, murmuring, talking about it. And Ed, your dad, comes down the hall, and coming down the hall, you look right into the assistant purchaser's window, and he looks at me, and he walks right past my door and goes into Steve's office, closes the suite door, and then closes Steve's door, and I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know, it must have been 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long, but I was working and doing whatever. And all of a sudden, there goes Ed. And Steve gets up, opens the door, and looks at me. Kind of funny, because I can't remember what he said. Something like, bye. And I went, what? And all of a sudden, it was, Paul Bosserman, please come to Ed Hutchinson's office. And I was like, oh no, your dad's got that low register voice.
I don't know where I got that voice from.
Exactly, right? So, and you hear that over the intercom, it's one of two things, right?
Yeah.
And I was, maybe I overstepped my boundaries or something, or whatever. And but then Steve let me off the hook and gave me a little smirk. He's going to be okay or something. He didn't tell me what was going on, but went down the hall and your dad said, come on in, shut the door. And he talked to me and offered me that position.
Yeah.
And I was very grateful because the night before I had bought a family station wagon that I really couldn't afford. All the family around in. And I was like, how am I going to pay for this dumb car, And the next morning, it was provided. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That is really, so for those who don't know, here comes Paul's promotion to branch manager, Empire Rubber and Supply in Pasco, Washington. Empire has a second branch in Tri-Cities and in the heart of potato country. A lot of people think that heart's in Idaho, but
it's not.
It's not. It's in eastern Washington.
Yeah.
No offense, Idaho. I know that the
beautiful
B-52s
potatoes.
wrote a wonderful song about you guys, but sorry, Paul.
They've got their own private Idaho. They made a movie about that too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, but so I didn't have to think about it a lot because the opportunity was there and there was a raise that came with it, and just things in life were where they were at, and I was like, I think this is what I was looking for, because I was going to school to get my degree to try to do whatever the next thing was supposed to be in my life, and there was the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it was one of these cohorts that you go to school at night and do weekend courses and stuff, and then you move on as a cohort, and it's an accelerated bachelor's degree or whatever. And I remember telling the cohort I was dropping. I'd cut. It was only like 3 weeks left or something in the deal or whatever, and I was like, nah. And they were like, but you're doing good. And I was like, well, to me, it's a means to an end, and I just got that end, right?
Yeah.
So, left that again and moved forward with the skills that I had from the industry and that were working for me. And,
And I agreed wholeheartedly with that decision. I knew it was a good move for you. I didn't want you not in Portland. I was spoiled having you at my side to help me, but God, I knew it was a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I moved to Potato Country, met a whole nother group of great people. Love those guys to death. I haven't been over there as much, but my daughter doesn't live in Spokane anymore, so I don't get out that way. But and then another 9 years there.
God, was it 9?
It was 9. Yeah, it was almost 10, but it was 9.
Yeah,
and so that was good.
Yeah, I get my opportunities to travel through that side and come visit you, and it was you were in a good element for that period of time. Yeah,
maybe it was the right medicine for the time or whatever, but no, it was good, and the branch prospered, and everybody pulled together, and it was in a little bit of turmoil when I got there, but they has such a good crew, such a good group of people, very solid people there, and it was easy, to be honest with you, because they were eager. They wanted to make things better, and they wanted to grow, and they wanted to do all the things. Maybe they just needed a little bit of wind under their wings or in their sails or whatever. But no, it was good. It was very good. And so we ended up raising our kids kind of over that way, mostly.
Yeah.
They were mostly baked. As much as we could bake them. And then, and then I had the opportunity to go to Texas, left the family company there in Empire, and got hired on at Allstate down there. And, and even we talked to Larry earlier, but had thought about going into sales all that time, right? But my kids, and that was the one thing I was like, you know what, I don't want to do that yet. I want to make sure they're at a certain age or to a certain level of being raised before I sail away, right? Because when you're on the road, and it
so much missed.
It makes it more difficult. And I know a lot of guys do it successfully. I don't think I could have been that guy. I don't think it would have worked for me. And so, yeah, we made that kind of sacrifice because there's more money in sales, right? So,
yeah. No, I know that of you. You're a family guy. I didn't get to see it all the time. I'd hear it from you, but I knew what that meant to you too. So I'm glad that they were baked well enough that you can.
Well, yeah, and they're kids. They're half of you.
Yeah.
And you learn so much through them. You've talked about this where you rediscover the world through their eyes because they're seeing it for the first time on every level, whether it's the first time they touch a blade of grass or see the sun or feel the wind on their face, or whether it's the first time their heart gets broken in their junior high school or whatever it is, they're seeing everything for the first time, and you kind of get to relive it through them. And because they're part of you, it pulls at your strings, and you want to be there for them. So for me, that was my decision, and not everybody takes that path, and you got to do what's right for you, right? So,
yeah. So off to Texas, buddy. Did you guys know what you were getting into? I mean, Texas is a whole new stomping ground. I'm sure you stepped off a plane to go talk to them, but now you're off the plane for good.
Yeah. So we went from Eastern Washington, right? This was the Tri-Cities area, which is about a population of 130,000 at the time, to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which is like 6 million people. The one city we landed in, this borough of Dallas, was bigger than the entire city that I came from. So
all of Tri-Cities. Yeah.
Yeah. So and not everybody's a NASCAR fan of Texas, but they drive like they are on the freeways. So there's a little bit of culture shock there, and thank God for GPS and Garmin at the time, right?
Yeah.
Another age revealing thing there. But yeah, I had a territory of, half of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Louisiana and part of Mississippi and Memphis, Tennessee. And so I didn't have to just learn one city. I had to learn like 15
in
everything's
5
new
states. Stomping grounds.
And I remember making some calls down in Mississippi, kind of south central Mississippi, and it's just what it was. I was a kid from the Northwest, where the English language is spoken in a certain cadence and a certain slang and vernacular, and you go to some parts of the world, and it's like, where are the subtitles? What's this guy talking about? It's not my language, it's not my dialect. And so there was a whole learning curve there about how to have an ear for people that are trying to talk to you. And you really have to be malleable in your mind to be able to listen to that and catch it, and then figure out, I understand what he's saying now, that the way he says that is this other way. But I remember reaching for the subtitles. Some in the Gator Country people think, where are the subtitles? And they weren't there. But you pick it up quick. And but they know for sure when you step on the property that you're not from around here,
How's your accent taken by them? I mean,
I snap back and forth pretty well.
I was wondering, you
but if
a little chameleon in you that you might sound.
Yeah, I've got a lot of chameleon. I mean, I talk to somebody for 5 minutes and all of a sudden I'm talking like them. But and I would come home from, traveling and come back to Dallas, and Brandy's like, "Where are you this week?" I was in Cajun country. She goes, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense." Because I don't know, maybe it's. I'm just susceptible to suggestion or something like that, but
having fun,
Yeah. But it's just communication in the end.
Yeah. So tell us about Viacore, formerly Allstate Belting.
Yeah.
Certainly a business you're representing, but they've got a core group of products too.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So there's been changes a lot of big changes in the last 10 years since I actually joined them. The company's changed quite a bit, where they were more of a, belt service Apache OEM distribution type company, and ownership of the company divested the belting division, and they went off and made parts and car parts and all kinds of interesting things, plastic parts, and left the belting to the belting people. And so we actually got our name back. So when I hired on, it was Allstate Industries. And then it was Allstate Belting, and then it became Allstate Industries. That's when I hired on, and then it turned into Allstate Belting again.
Okay.
After they divested. And it's been cool. I learned heavyweight belting,
Well, when you say heavyweight, let's speak to that, because
right.
we're in the Northwest, and for those who don't know, when I think of it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul, but when I think of heavyweight belting, I think of the mining industry that takes place on the East Coast. That's kind of sets the bar for most things, where it's heavily engineered because you're in coal mines deep under the earth and dealing with that. When you get over to the Northwest, your experience and my experience was always what we referred to as spaghetti belting, because it's a lot more of a lightweight piece of work here with the aggregate culture and the quarries that we would experience here.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some chunks of rock still being bounced around, but not at the level of some other areas. Now, I imagine you could speak a lot differently around your real estate.
Well, sure, yeah. So we were talking about belt specs and things like that earlier, but up here you might have a handful of customers that might use something in a 200-pound platform or a 3600, right? And you'd buy a cut piece of it off of somebody else who maybe stocked it. Yeah. Well, down there, 3-ply 600, we probably have 10,000 feet on the floor and different cover configurations and widths and lengths and
and they're buying significant chunks of it too.
Yeah. You get a call and you're like, oh, thank God we got 4,500 feet in stock. We can fill the order, and boom, it's on a truck and out the door. No, it's a good company. They're heavily invested in inventory, which gives them kind of a leg up. So they can fill big orders like that. We get calls from all over North America, really. We ship stuff up to Canada and help out with a mine up there and that kind of thing. But we do the little, lighter weight stuff too, the rough tops and, monofilaments and things like that too. But certainly I knew how to splice and do some things with black rubber belt and vulcanizing up here from the Northwest with my days splicing belt with your company. And that helped a lot. But I did 10 years in potato country and learned the lightweight side pretty in depth. So getting back into heavyweight when I went to Texas was interesting, and it's a change of mind and a reference point. And I learned a lot more of the theory behind conveyance, tensions and system troubleshooting and all these things. Worked under some really, really brilliant people like Casey Price there in Iowa, kind of helped me out and took me under a wing a little bit. And I peppered him with questions every time I drove with him, and just to try to get any, the information and his knowledge, because he's just a walking encyclopedia. But so that's really helped my career, and I've been able to turn around and kind of tell that story again and relate that information to the next generation, where otherwise it just disappears.
It does. Everyone hopes to search the net, find the easy answers instead of really going through the application and looking at it from you spoke to that earlier. We were talking about that, about your goal with your knowledge,
Well, yeah, the goal. So I kind of have this, and really it's the company, the Viacore, we're reestablishing some of the norms. Back in the 70s and 80s, you had belt factories that held week-long seminars. Vernon and Paul Smith talked about that, right? Yeah. A couple weeks ago. And that was the case. I have a Georgia Duck Bible, on the shelf, the duck on the front, and it's engineering information, all this stuff that you would fly people out to do. And that information maybe is going to get lost if we don't keep it and teach the next generation. So one of the things we're doing at Viacore on a couple different levels is we've started tech schools to try to establish a trade and a way of teaching and mentoring and bringing these guys up through the ranks, where it could be just mentor-mentee, like when I was coming up through it, where you got put with a lead and you learned certain things and you learned how they do it, but you didn't really know why. Yeah. It's just what they did. you learned that you did it a certain way so you didn't get hurt, or you did it a certain way because 10 years ago somebody tried it something else and it didn't work. But it wasn't really, we didn't have the science behind it or the knowledge behind it.
To get intimate with it.
Yeah. And so, people like Mike Cremines getting in and really digging into the technology of vulcanizing and splicing and doing some of the legwork that he did, established certain norms.
And there's a name. He doesn't matter what company he's worked for, he's established that reputation for that drive.
Yeah. And he's recognized in NIBA for it, right? So, they gave him a good honorable mention here a year or two ago, and it was cool.
Amen.
But yeah, so taking that and even the troubleshooting side and different things that we do in the field to help the customers out, making sure that knowledge gets passed down to the next generation, to the next layer of sales force. So we're working on tools and trainings for salespeople and things of that nature too. So trying to reestablish a basis of that knowledge base or driven company, right? Solutions. So it's not just Viacore. It's Viacore Solutions.
Okay.
So there's a second word there that gets dropped off a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's not in the logo, and even our salespeople are called solutions specialists.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we train them up to be. And not everybody's there right when they start, right? But that's the goal, is to get them to be able to walk into a property and help them point out problems and be a solutions provider instead of just another price point.
I keep running into that one, the more people I'm talking to through this, because that is where it's at. I mean, I like to think of that of our company too, and I think you got to experience that of, we could go rinse and repeat the same thing that's giving you the grief.
Right.
Here's another piece, good luck with that one and how long it runs, rather than, well, if you just do this, or if we apply it this way, finding the solution, be driven for that, not about the sale, but, it could script the next sale because it's going to last longer, but my God, what an evolve for most. Right.
So, I mean, and your dad was really good at establishing that in me. We talked about this earlier too, that, if there was an oops, in the company and some piece of belt got drugged back to the shop and he had to warrant it or cover it or whatever the scenario was, by God, everybody was going to learn a lesson. And he would drag it down the aisle and call everybody out, and everybody would come down and stand around the belt and look at it and try to figure out what was going on so we could learn that lesson. So at least if there's some kind of a credit or thing that we got value out of that, never to be repeated, right? So This is the lesson, everybody learn it, move forward. And so some of that forensic stuff, that we were talking about.
It catches fire. I mean, I love it because the belt tells a story, even as it's failing. You look at it like, oh boy, that rubbed wrong or did this, something's going on. This belt did not enjoy its ride.
Right.
And then I think I expressed this earlier too, and sorry, we have interviews prior to the interviews a little bit because we're telling stories and we like to now share them. But I'm sharing with you guys, because I like that. I expressed that earlier to you, that you guys would get mad at, too, that you would feel, yes, Ed dealing with the dollars over here, but you guys dealing with your own successes and learning from them. And why did this come apart? I'm going back to the shop with this and I'm getting forensic and I'm not going to repeat this again.
Yeah. The pride in the workmanship. And that's something we're trying to instill in the techs as well, is that, hey, it's great when you get something right, but it's even better when you do such a good job that customer actually calls up and requests you by name to be on the job that they need next week.
Yeah.
Right? So that pride in workmanship and ownership of your handiwork and treating it like a skilled trade that it is, because it's a niche thing that we do. And it's not something you can learn at any college or any technical school. It's a trade.
Yeah.
And it gets under your skin and you get to like it. But yeah.
It's resonating in my head. Failure is success training. So, that's,
as long as you learn the lesson.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And there's some people that'll just keep sending that head to the board, bang, bang, bang. You know?
Yeah. So it's the balance between, they say, if you're not making any mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. And then there's, hey, don't run off a cliff, right? At least. So because you're not coming back from that mistake, right? So But no, we try to internally, like even if we have some kind of an issue with the job and it happens, right? And doesn't happen very often, but sometimes they're big. We try to do some kind of analysis or forensics on even our process. How was the communication during that job? What kind of breakdowns led into what was going on and led into that scenario so we were at this point? Well, it was a rushed thing or it was a punt thing. And really that's when you need to be communicating the most.
Yeah.
Right? Establishing a job scope and going through it and meeting with the key people that are involved to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what's going to happen, and then executing the plan. And then, of course, it all changes once you hit the roadblock. But yeah, so learning from mistakes is a big part of life, and it's a big part of the industry, and trying to get the education out there so they don't have to learn quite as many is a big thing for me, and making sure the guys are growing into professionals in their trade and not just another guy with a bunch of tools and maybe this week I'll do this and maybe next week I'll build fences. We're no fence builders.
No.
But you know what I'm saying? It's to have a pride in it and see it as the trade that it is. Yeah.
Well, maybe you've listened to a few of my interviews, but the thing that also keeps resonating is the network that we have of people. And you and I talking today, you and I talking yesterday about whatever, sharing those stories so the other doesn't have to repeat it or whatever, learning those lessons and the value that this industry has. And I've spoken many times about it with NIBA, connections within the industry that brings everyone together to go through, because even some people are our rivals and stuff, but it's a friendly competition at times, so that, I wouldn't want to represent this industry any differently myself, other than, legitimate and because any move within it for ourselves is only beneficial to the industry as a whole. You don't want to be that black, oh gosh, Paul, don't talk about that guy. That guy's not representing us well. They stand out, and that's unfortunate,
Right.
But I do think it's great to be able to horse trade stories with one another, so that we don't learn by the mistake. Somebody else did. Sorry for them, but how valuable when they're sharing it.
Right. Yeah, and you're right. It is. You end up with my crosstown rival, but in the long run, we're all in this kind of funny family of this niche. Yeah. And there's only 1,000 belt technicians in North America or something like that, or 1,500 or something. It's not like there's a million people that know how to do this. So it is a tight network, and you never know, 10 years from now, the guy that was your crosstown rival might be your coworker or your boss, or who knows, So you always try to treat people with respect, no matter what, in life anyways. But it's good to have, rivalries and those guys, but in the end, we're all part of one network.
Well, same goes with who you're calling on too. You don't want to disrespect anyone on site who might be pushing a broom. They may be the decision maker.
Yeah.
A few weeks from now, or a couple of years from now. Yeah.
Or make fun of that kid that was emptying garbage cans, and the delivery driver ended up being somebody's boss, right? So, yeah.
You know that one, huh?
I am that guy. I was the guy emptying the garbage. That was my first job for you guys,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Every morning was grab the garbage can, go up the stairs, go around to everybody and say, good morning, and take their paper, because back then everything was on paper. Yeah. You didn't wad stuff up and throw it in the can because it would fill up the can too quick. Oh yeah. So if you had a piece of paper to throw away, you just set it in the tray.
Easy, Paul, in this town we recycle. Well, now we do.
Right.
You'd be
well, yeah, we saw that evolution too, right? So, yeah. But
and also, you're calling us out. We were cheap bastards. We weren't paying for anyone else to clean. We're cleaning up from within. So,
were we printing on both sides of the page or not? Right. The trees were abundant back in the 70s, guys. But no, yeah. So that was my first job in the industry, was picking up the garbage and doing the delivery driver's parts runner and doing the mail run.
Oh yeah.
All of that.
No, there's purpose behind it all. And now It's not just sales. You put on a different hat since you've been with the company too.
Yeah, I've had a couple of different hats. Started out as just a guy running a territory and calling on accounts and that kind of thing, and then became the sales manager for that region and the Greater Texas region.
Yeah,
5 or 6 states down that way. And here recently became the regional manager for the Southwest U.S. For what that means. But now I'm over sales and operations and warehouses and just about everything except for IT and finance or something like that for the region.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of responsibility. It's something I've done before where you leave one set of tools behind and you pick up a new set of tools and apply your knowledge and your wisdom and try to go after it just as much. And there's a transition period where you're kind of in the fog.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for a year now, and I'm coming out of the fog a little more every month and learning about the back end of the business. And that's a fun part of it too. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as long as it keeps evolving and you still have the interest to keep evolving with it, there's been a lot of evolve with your company. That's great.
Yeah. So it's a good growing company and a collection of, we were talking about that kind of small to medium sized companies kind of locking arms and going to battle together, certainly across Canada. They're coast to coast in Canada. And Lord willing, we'll have a similar footprint in the States before too long. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I know you too well that as I might set a script for myself to keep, don't forget to hit on this and don't forget to hit on that. It's been so easy to draw it out of you and remember to draw it out of you, at least this far, but I'm going back to the script. So obviously this is still rewarding to you. I mean, you wouldn't be here today talking about it if it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, it's also because it's what I know. I'm still in it because I'm in it. And the more you're in it, the more you know about it. And so it becomes a little bit easier for you. But no, we say it in our industry. If you don't learn something new every day, you're not doing your job. And lo and behold, you learn something pretty much every day. In this industry, I think Vernon said the same thing, and it's true. There's so many different applications and facets and ways to apply what we do in various industries. Whether we're cooking dog food at a factory or whether we're moving cars or trees or iron ore or copper or whatever it is, or unloading ships or filling up grain silos. It's pretty much touches everything. Until they invent a way to make things fly, we're going to have a job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was funny. One of my earlier mentors in the splice world, Jim Otta, we talked about him. He told me at one point in time, he's like, "Oh, it's a great job, great industry." And I was kind of on the fence the first 6 months of this job. I wasn't sure how I liked it, And he says, "Tell you what, you learn how to do what we're doing. You can go anywhere in the world and get work because it's that specialized."
Yeah.
It's that specialized that you could travel anywhere. Even if you don't speak the language, you're going to get hired.
Yeah.
Because they're going to figure it out, or you'll get ESL classes or whatever classes you need. And it's true that the skills that we know and we learn along the way, you can go anywhere in the world and find work. And
That's true.
And you're going to do well.
Well, when you're pumped full of it, to step out of your car and go volunteer and do that work, that's something else, because the learning curve, it's tremendous I say it with anyone almost on any level, trying to install it, trying to sell it, trying to buy it, whatever. The learning curve is great. You're not going to feel comfortable for a year, for a lot of people. And there's people that buck that curve all the time. There's people that stretch that curve all the time. But, but it is fascinating because it does require a great deal of patience of yourself, because it's not a traditional mechanic's work. It's not a traditional salesperson's application.
Yeah.
It's very niche.
Yeah. And, there are some tools that we use in the industry that are special for our industry. And then there's a lot of them that are just completely borrowed from some other thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many of the things, especially the cutlery, all of the cutlery is borrowed.
Yeah.
maybe even the ply knives are borrowed from the tire industry.
Yeah, right.
So everything we do, or from the cowhide industry, or from the fabric industry, something, it's borrowed and modified.
Yeah.
Hey, cool! Look what I did. I welded this thing on the back of the other thing, and now it does this quicker. And we're always inventing new things and new ways to do it because it's so nichey. There's no belt tool factory. It's all hobbled together, and you can go. Yeah, there's certain companies out there that sell kits and tool kits with all the stuff, but even they are going out to 14 different places to put that kit together.
And we're still going to weld something together in our shop for some variant of it for purpose,
Take a big old nut and weld it on the back of pinchers for pulling nails out of a horse hoof,
Give yourself the leverage to do it, Yeah, we still do that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's awesome. It comes out of you, the love of the industry, and I knew this would be great to hear from you as an ambassador, so to speak, of this industry, Paul, because I think of you as such because, especially with what you shared today, about trying to retain it and who's going to retain it, what's the next generation going to do with it, and how we can keep people fed. And, I'm being a broken record. It won't come out of the internet so cleanly. It won't come out without somebody having had the experience before,
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's picking up. I see it with some generations that are coming along and fostering and a greater interest in it and sticking around in it too, because there's been so many people move around and move away that it gets concerning. Like, how can we maintain?
Yeah.
And people, as long as people are concerned about how a wheel turns, they might be concerned about how a belt turns and how they can improve upon it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That generationally, I think there's going to be a resurgence in the trades. I think we're already starting to see it, where that other path, the higher education path, has gotten so sullied and political now that I think there's a lot of the younger generations going, you know what? Give me something to do and I'll do it well and I'll make money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ambition out there and a lot of young guys with a lot of energy and good work ethic that are looking for something just like what we do.
Yeah.
And if you want a job, call me. We're hiring.
Wait, call me for
call me up. No, but it's a constant thing, right? You just can't find enough good people.
Yeah.
And we've been on a big hiring binge in our industry, in our area, and we're on a mandate to hire more. Just grow, because there's more to do. To do. Yeah.
Good. I love to hear it.
Yep.
All right, it ain't always about belt. All right, Paul, what's fun when you're not doing belt? What is fun for Paul? What's rewarding to you when you're not working? Let's wake Brandy up.
Well, I do enjoy music and food and live music, that kind of thing.
Do you still get out for live music?
We do,
This fooligan we're interviewing today got me into watching or taking in jazz, and I never thought I would. Is that you're smiling?
Yeah. I've got a soft spot for jazz. I played the saxophone as a kid for a couple of years and drove my family absolutely bonkers with all the wrong notes and everything, and so eventually gave it up. And but I think that gave me that, and watching the Peanuts, because it's Vince Giardi in the background the whole time doing that bebop jazz.
Yeah.
And I didn't really put all that together until just a few years ago. I was like, I love jazz because of Snoopy. Yeah. But no, I love talented people. I had a lot of musicians in my family growing up. Most of my brothers and sisters were either vocalists or guitarists or piano players, or they did one thing or the other, right? And some of them quite talented, getting master's degrees in music and jazz vocalists and things of that nature. And so I was kind of immersed in it as a kid. And we had a piano at the house. Someone was always kind of bopping around or strumming a guitar or whatever. So it gave me an affinity for it and a respect for the trade and the art. Just as much as we're craftsmen in our trade, they're a craftsman in their trade. And if they apply their gift, right, which is a gift, and they hone it and they discipline it and they turn it into something very extraordinary, I have a lot of respect for that, regardless of the genre, whether it's Jazz or Rush or Tool or whatever, or Ryan Bingham, I've been in Texas for a while, so yeah, I've gotten into a little bit of country.
I would have figured who crept in.
Yeah, all the people in Pasco can laugh at me now because I used to make fun of it. But
oh, that's fun.
There's some good, talented people out there in the world, and they're telling a story.
Yeah.
And if it's got meaning and it's got heart and it's from the soul and it's applied with their gift, I love it. I love it.
It'll certainly foster the love within you. That's cool. I think what I remember in our infancy together working, I'd still get drug off the order desk to go be a helper from time to time. And now I'm off with Paul to go install a belt somewhere out in Clackamas or something. And, NRK was such a new station, the new rock alternative. And they're feeding us all this new music that was like, with Bizarro's single titled bands like Bush and and we're like, who is this and what are we listening to? Have you listened to the lyrics, Case? And you're getting me to evaluate. I'm like, I did not hear that,
Right.
So and I've always loved music for that. I love taking in the lyrics and studying what they're trying to tell me and interpret it for myself. But and I'm quite eclectic with that. I love the old, I love the new. I still listen to what keeps coming out new.
Right.
I love music also.
Yeah, you see it as a student of humanity too, where they've got a voice and they're trying to get something out of them, and it's a study in the human soul if they're doing it well, and it's not just bebop, whatever, computer-generated junk,
Yeah.
It's fun and it's interesting, and to hear their story and where they're coming from, whether it's good or bad or what they're going through, and understand the humanity in it, and to see it and either apply compassion or good job or whatever the story they're telling is, or, hey, I never want to go there in my life. Lesson learned, right? So, but yeah, it's interesting. The good stuff's good. So yeah, we get out to live performance from time to time in Denton County, Texas, right? So they've got UNT down there, one of the better music schools in the States. And a lot of good people come out of there, and
not always country.
No, it's a big jazz school. So
oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Who? Nora Jones.
Oh yeah. Nora
Jones. Yeah, she went to UNT. So, lots of people did, but yeah, great music scene, a lot of young artists, and then there's big time standards. Wanda King plays at Cheaters Meat Market, tiny little, smaller than the studio here, packs in 50, 70 people, and you're hearing stellar stuff right in front of you. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that because of my music background, family and whatnot. But then we're a cut flower farm. It's a new thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's Farmer Paul on the weekends, right? So.
Well, you got yourself some property down there. You better grow something.
Yeah, so then that's been a fun thing, getting that going. It's just kind of fledgling right now, but Brandy's really taken it over and doing great with it. And we do cut flower farm, and it's you can't grow stuff year round yet. We're working on it, but to fill in the blanks, she does floral arrangements and special events, and so I've been helping out with that, setting up the irrigation and getting all nerdy on that, and timers and lines, and studying hugel culture and how to store water and wood chips underneath the soil and all this great stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Farmer Paul.
Yeah. Well, in Texas it gets hot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right. So how do you keep the plants alive without using an extreme amount of water, right? So there's different methods and things, drip irrigation, but we found a way to use a particular type of medium as a water battery, basically, under the soil, so the roots go through the growing medium, and down underneath there's water storage, basically.
Yeah.
And future soil and that kind of thing, and it's fun. It's a science, and yeah, we're doing good. So
you're dweeby that way. It works perfect for you. I know it.
I just wish I was a younger man, because it's, and we're doing our thing and getting healthy and all that, but certainly, I don't have the energy of a 25-year-old anymore, but
that's all right.
Yeah, we're getting through it.
Oh man, I love hearing it.
Yeah.
I was glad to hear about jazz too. I knew that wasn't ever going to leave your soul.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say it was unfair of me to say you drugged me out because you exposed me to it, and
Right.
and I wouldn't have walked into the places
Right.
with just a jazz label. And as eclectic as I like to think I am, it's like for some reason, well, they're just going to play forever, and with no rhyme or reason. Maybe so, but you know, you're going to hear something unique. And just a vibe that I hadn't experienced from music before. So I found it very rewarding when you would give me that call and, we're going to go do that? Heck yeah, let's go do that,
Yeah.
And I remember how wide-eyed you and I were. You and I got to go to Louisiana together.
Oh, yeah.
And when we got to go to Interlochts, had us out, and of all the places, they put us right on Bourbon Street.
Right on Bourbon Street.
Yeah. And that was a kick in the pants, though, because we get our Slurpee full of poison and our stogies, and we're walking down the street and just music everywhere, like windows in and amongst the neons of girls, but you would get to hear all these different vibes. And I remember you were a lucky guy to have a patio to your hotel room that we were able to sit out on that patio smoking stogies and just listen to the music and watch the crazy. But just we got to, at least with you, I got to take in some things that I never would have alone. So
Right. Yeah, in New Orleans, it's a great place, great food, great music. But, it's interesting. A lot of character and a lot of characters.
Oh yeah.
So but great town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. Here I always load a question up that's fun. I don't know how you're going to answer this one, but if you had one day left to live, how would you spend it?
Ooh. Well, I'd grab the ones I love.
Amen.
And, my wife and my kids and whoever I could get around me and thank them for the life that I've had. And, just, sing praises to God or whatever. But, it's been a good ride, and hopefully I've got more left in me than a day, but you never know. That proverbial bus might come out of the lurch and get me, right? So
Spirit in the sky.
You got to live it like it's the last day, right? Yeah. And some people learn that lesson, through real life experience where they maybe have a near-death experience or something, and they see them on the other side. Sometimes they completely turn their life around. So there's a way for us to kind of infuse that into our own lives. What does that look like, right? Well, maybe I only have one day left, so what kind of man am I going to be today?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And it helps you get through the hard times too, right? A little faith and prayer and whatnot, but certainly having a positive outlook and treating life as a gift that it is, because it is a gift. What's the chances of the science side of things meeting and the DNA turning out to be me, and then the atmosphere I'm raised in molding that DNA into who I become? It's infinitesimally small that I am who I am and I'm here today.
Yeah.
And so to have that and have it as a gift, it's just gratitude. But certainly the ones I love would be with me. I would hope, I would pray.
Amen.
Yeah.
Good answer, Paul. Well, it's a good truth.
That was a good question. I wasn't expecting that one, but
you couldn't have. I don't think I could have answered that any better for myself. There's this, I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's a wonderful movie called About Time. And it's a romantic comedy, but it's got time travel in it. And so I like the science of it. So if you're going to watch it, you're nodding your head, you've seen this one, maybe Brandy, but if you haven't, it's wonderful that this young man gets this ability to, his family has it that is handed down by generations, and he learns lessons from it that eventually, I don't try to spoil the whole movie, but he learns lessons enough that it's salted down like this at the end, that he goes, I try to live each day as if I've intentionally come back to this same day to live it again, and to enjoy it, whether it was bad, whether it was good, boring, what have you, but live each day as if you've intentionally come back to it, to take advantage of it to its fullest. And I thought, I might be paraphrasing it horribly or something, but it had some rich lessons to take from it in watching it, because this, watching how this young man's grown from it, and certainly the relationship he had was with his father, and it was priceless too. If you want to see me bawl, it was good. But
right.
But yeah, I always speak to life's rich pageant, because we're working to live. We're not living to work, and belting's just our vessel to get home and enjoy the ones we love.
Right.
That's our lesson for today, people.
It's interesting. Some people live in the past.
Yeah.
Right. And it's always thinking about and the regret and the woe, and they're wearing that cloak, and it weighs them down. And then there's other people that are always kind of onto the next thing. And they don't appreciate the moment. Right. And so that concept of savoring the moment, and what are we experiencing, and how can I apply myself in the situation now? What I choose to do right now is going to affect the next steps, right? We're in a linear progression. We can't time travel. We'd like to, but we can't. So it's how can I do what I can do right now to be better in the next 5 seconds, and that feeds into the next minute and the next half hour and then tomorrow. So it's a lot of life is about making decisions. Yeah. And making good decisions. They're not always the easiest thing. And
not always a popular thing either.
Right. Yeah, sometimes it's not the popular thing, and sometimes it's not the cool thing, but it's the right thing. Yeah. And if you make those right decisions and do your best, you're going to enjoy life a lot better, and not look back with regrets, because you did the best you could, right? Yeah.
Well stated, Paul. That was beautiful. Thank you for doing this with me today. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it would go, but I've watched a couple of them, and I thought that's a neat thing, because the stories and the people and the common man, the fellow man, right, and woman, whatever, man, human.
Yeah.
And learning from people that have been around the block a few times, like the Paul Smiths and the Vernons, and how can I apply their wisdom in my life? And that's the fun part about our experience, right?
Yeah.
Learning and growing and changing and seeing what's around the corner. So.
Yeah. No, and I've taken that from all these people, so to be able to share it with them, I thought it was fun. Why not take this platform you can go fill it full of nonsense, you really can. And I'll check out that 10-second clip of nonsense, but why not give us an hour or something rewarding,
Yeah.
And yes, a belt took us there, but but why not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. I'm glad this worked out, that you can come out from Texas. This is great.
Yeah, it worked out well. Got to kind of triple whammy, so it was good.
Yeah. Well, with that, we've killed a perfectly good hour. I'd like to thank George with New Wave Studios. Thanks, George, for being my man behind the scenes. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Viacore, for lending you to me.
Yeah.
And thank you, Belt Friends. I hope you guys keep listening to this. This has been very richly rewarding, and I'm going to keep doing it. So I will see you guys soon. Thank you.
Cool.